Let's make your major key guitar solos sound so much better with these improvisational and melodic choices. If you would, please hit that subscribe and notification bell to get more videos on how to make your guitar playing better. My name is Ryan. I've helped hundreds of guitar players over the last 21 years now break past this really stale, boring plateau, right? Just your guitar solos sort of sound like you're just running up and down scales, and really develop a musical language, vocabulary that we can speak or sing through the guitar. So let's get started. If I have this A major, right? That's just what I'm playing in right now. I, of course, can just go to my A Ionian, right? And it's going to give me a very particular sound. Now, the other choice that tends to happen too is an A major pentatonic, right? A great choice. I want to make sure that we're not just relying on either one because of the pattern or something that we're used to, right? Because if we're going back to that major pentatonic, it is the same pattern, dots on a diagram, as the minor pentatonic, and the minor pentatonic is usually the scale that we start improvising with or we learn first. So it almost turns into like a 2-for-1, but we want to be deliberate if we're going to use our major pentatonic. It has a very specific sound. And when we start getting into modes and so on, Ionian was the first one that we start with. So we get very attached to that. If we want to make these choices, this is the way that I like to look at it, is we have a half step from the 3 to the 4 in Ionian and the 7 back to the root note. Those half steps, they're not in the major pentatonic, and it adds a little bit of a decoration, a decorative sound. If I have my major pentatonic, to me, it has a very foundational sound, right? Almost like, I bear with me with this visual, but almost like a castle, right? Or like a stone castle. And this has a little bit more of a decorative sound. Now this goes for Lydian and Mixolydian, which has a sharp 4, Lydian has a sharp 4, Mixolydian has a flat 7. They both have the same notes, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, which are the notes in the major pentatonic, right? And they just decorate that sound, whether it's the major scale, Ionian, Lydian, or Mixolydian. Also, my minor pentatonic does the same thing. When I start getting into modes, my minor pentatonic, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, right? That is like that sort of foundational sound, that castle sound, if you will. And then I can add the whatever 2 or whatever 6 in that minor pentatonic to make it Dorian or Phrygian or Aeolian by natural minor. So that's how I look at the major pentatonic in this case, right? Minor pentatonic if we're doing minor. Is we have a very foundational sound. It's why a lot of old rock and roll that is in a major key, or Motown, right? It's where those vocal melodies really come from, or right? Very familiar sound. So deliberately choose that if that's what you want. It has its own sound. You know, if I were to put this backing track on and just stay to, I'm going to do a major pentatonic and then I'm going to switch to an Ionian, you can hear the difference in sound here. Cool. Now, okay, we can hear that switch. Two progressions were the major pentatonic, 2 were Ionian. And you can hear those half steps. Now I tried to really put those, the 3 to the 4 in there a lot and the 7 to the 1. So make those choices deliberately, right? And figure out how you want to play. The one thing that I notice when I'm using that major pentatonic, especially in this chord progression, is like when I get to the D, the four chord, because there's no four note in that major pentatonic, that sometimes I feel like I want to add it in there. Okay, that is the start of making a deliberate melodic choices in a major key. Let's move a little bit further. If I take my major pentatonic, okay, and I'm going to change it to a major blues, just going to add one note. So now instead of 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, I have 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6. Okay, I love this. It's like an Etta James style, like vocal. Well, I lick if I'm playing it as a lick, but blending in this minor to major over a major key, not over a dominant, not over a blues, right? Over a major. So this is a major. So if I add that in, I'm just going to be playing my major pentatonic, and every now and then you're going to hear that flat 3 in that major pentatonic, and it's going to get your attention. So right here. Right? Kind of gets your attention. Use that how you will, and it is a deliberate choice, right? Happens a little bit more in like some country sounds or some R&B, old R&B, and even those Motown sounds for sure, right? Again, put it in your playing. See if that's something that you really want to tap into, right? The next thing that we can do is I can take this major Ionian. All right, and now because I'm taking that major pentatonic and adding a flat 3 and saying like, ooh, that's a really cool sound, right? And that has that, right? Kind of gives you that that blues in a major, right? That sort of soulful bluesy in a major. Is I can now start adding some of these notes in Ionian, some of these sort of passing tones, where if I have my A major, right, if I want to add my blues note in there, my sharp 4, right, into that 5, I can do that. My flat 6 into my 6, my flat 3, my minor 3rd, into that major 3rd. Now I'm really starting to play outside of the key. The thing is, when I do that, it has to be deliberate, and I want to really make those decisions. If I were to play, right, sounds pretty cool. I'm saying, right, staying in an Ionian, okay, and it has a very modal sound. But I can take that same idea. Right, some of those notes, especially when I get up here, might have a little bit more of a bluegrassy sound, right, in there, that flat 7, depending on how you use it, is just going to sort of throw that major Ionian, the way that it resolves, right, that 7 into that 1, off a little bit by adding that flat 7 in there. And then again, same, right, adding that sharp 4 into that 5, right? These are all things that you can play with. You can go as far as having this major right, and adding a minor blues. I added that sort of major 3 in there over that major. Now we're really getting a really minor sound over a major. So there's very deliberate sounds that we can get within a major, and we don't have to stick to just the major pentatonic. We don't have to stick just to Ionian. But already those two are choices that we can make without starting to add these extra notes in, whether you want to play a little bit more bluegrassy or blues or a little bit more R&B or get that, really draw the attention out. Try all of these ideas. We don't need to be stuck within one scale, and especially once we start getting modal, we don't have to be stuck just in one mode. As long as you know, linguistically, music is a language, the guitar is just a voice that we're singing or speaking that language through. As long as you know the reasons linguistically that you're making those choices, it's all up for grabs, So we go through a lot of this stuff in our mentorship program. If you are an intermediate guitar player that wants to really bridge the gap between your creative ideas and what you're able to play, becoming fully fretboard fluent, comment pro below, and we can get started to see if you're right for this mentorship program.